Hey, friends, we are back once again for another team talk. Aren't you excited about what we're getting ready to do tonight?
I am more than excited. I'm glad to be back in the chat room.
In the chat room.
That's right, because we're gonna continue on where we left last time. For those of you
Hmm.
that were with us, I told you we were coming back because we had to continue it, and I'm ready to get going with it. But I'm gonna let my wife go ahead and do her little preliminaries that she likes to do to get the introductions going. Welcome to joining us on live Team Talks. I'm Coach Rod. I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness, you are so hilarious. Anyway, so please let us know where you are joining in from, what state, city, if you're near us, please just say hello and let us know where you're joining in from. And we're going to just go right ahead into what we're going to be talking about because we don't want to prolong it.
We
But how
sure
has
don't.
your day been?
Today was a good day. I must say it was a very good day. Not too daunting. It was an
Hmm.
early day. Most of my days are very early, but I was excited about coming back.
Yeah.
Because I knew what we had to do today, and I was anticipating the conversation. Yeah, I was
Oh,
anticipating. I got an audible for you. You know how sometimes
oh
I
goodness
thought it.
gracious.
So this time
I'm
I
afraid.
gave you a heads up to let you know. But before we get into that audible, just so we can get a quick recap for those that was with us last time, and maybe if you weren't, just a quick one.
Just a really quick
Yeah,
one.
just a
Before
real
you
quick one.
actually do that, I know I asked you how you were doing,
Hmm.
but I do want to address those who are going to be watching the rebroadcast later. Thank y'all so much for watching it and joining us. Marriage Evolves is a community where you're going to be able to get information, tools on how you can become better in your relationship. Some people have a place to go to get information and some people don't. So that's what we're here to do is give you the tools so you can become sharper and better.
Wow, she did that so well, didn't she? I mean, just a radio VJ personality. How was your day, by the way?
My day was good. I had a
Wonderful,
wonderful day and I was of course just preparing for this
as
evening
I'm
because
sure
I
you
was
were.
excited about it
Yeah.
because I love talking to Marriage Evolves community.
I came home and the studio then shifted. I had to walk right into it.
Oh, goodness. So, anyway, if you haven't chosen to follow us, make sure that you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe on YouTube. Okay. Come on, Mr. B, what we getting ready to do? Coach B, let me call you that.
Well, Coach Sean, just a quick recap from
Yeah.
last week, or the last time we were live before everybody. We were talking about breaking up the cycle, and when we were talking about those cycles in our relationships that
Mm-hmm.
kept us in those hot button moments, kept us in those moments where we just couldn't seem to get out of crazy ways of thinking, those patterns, if you will. Okay, so I want to hit off initially today, just resurfacing the portion about self reflection in dealing with getting out of the cycle, breaking up the cycle. We have to realize that it's okay to be uncomfortable when dealing with those cycles.
Mm-hmm.
It is pertinent that you realize that.
But before we actually understand and know that it's pertinent to break the cycles, we first have to, like we talked about last week, identify those cycles. And there are things that you can do to be able to identify the cycles and then come back to do that self reflection, correct?
That's right. That's right. Thank you for backing me up on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's certain steps that you have to take, just like a child has to take steps to go up the stairs.
Yes.
We have to take steps to be able to become better and recognize these cycles.
And that's a good analogy why you brought it up, because as a child learns that they go one step at a time and they take their time. Even if it's
Ooh.
like a toddler who's really just learning how to walk, they will get on hand and knees and they would take one step at a time. And they get to that one step, and then they may stand up and then do it again, get back down on hands and knees and go up the next step. Or they may just stay
Ooh.
on all fours and just go up one step at a time.
And that's exactly how we as couples need to manage one another one step at a
One
time
step at a
when
time,
we're
y'all.
breaking these cycles.
Mhm.
Because unfortunately, these cycles are not something that we will be able to do instantaneously. It takes takes time to break the mindsets, the lack of communication, the mistrust, or either the depression that one may be walking in or experiencing at the time, or whether it's pornography, hatred, resentment. I mean, I can go on and on when it comes to things that couples fa- fa- find themselves falling into when it comes to a cycle, and it takes time. So we're gonna
Now with the taking time, going back to what I was saying in the
right.
beginning, you got to be okay with being comfortable with that. That it's going to take time. One, and then
I know goodwill. I know that is not something that I'm okay with sometimes.
that's all right. We're going to deal with that a little bit in a minute here. But it's okay to be uncomfortable with that. Then the other portion of it is you have to realize, each of us
Hmm.
individually have to reflect on where do we need to stop, like you said earlier, reflect, own our portion, own our portion. Yes, own our
Mm,
portion. And then
mm.
all those things in the past, those relationship purge, whatever influences, whatever it was, you named off a list of different things a minute ago. But whatever it is or was that keeps bringing us to that point, we have to be willing to own it and confront and deal with that.
And you're talking about
Hmm.
ownership means you taking responsibility for your reactions, your cycles that you create, because sometimes it's not the other person. It could be you as the individual creating these same cycles.
Most times, it's never the other person; it's the triggers within me. You just
Ooh,
happen to have brought up or
illuminated it.
surfaced, illuminated, if you will, highlighted the trigger that was in me. That's really where these
Wow.
cycles come from, these patterns come from. Your spouse is not the person that did whatever happened to you when it happened when you was a child in your earlier years or in your previous marriage relationship, whatever the case may be. They may have said something or showed or did something that reminded you
That triggered.
that
And we talked
that
about
hit that trigger.
triggers
Yeah, but
last week.
it's remember it's you, self reflection. You got to look at you, not
Mhm.
your spouse.
So we were talking about taking responsibility and ownership. That is something that we're learning as coaches. Individuals are not willing to take ownership for their part of the cycle. However, we are going to decree and declare that tonight.
Yes.
You, as an individual, are going to break that thing in your relationship, in your mindset, in your heart, wherever it's located, so you can become free. But you have to do something about it, not the other party. If I take responsibility of my actions and Roderick takes responsibility for his actions, then we can become a better team in breaking these cycles. And
But
so
now I
you
have a question though. How do we best do that? And you put on the notes
you
being
have
honest
to.
about your trigger,
Well, you have to.
not throwing it under the rug, not saying, "Oh, I'm good," or "I'm all right," or "It's nothing." Being honest about it.
Well, I have to be honest about the cycles that I have created and I have stimulated.
Mm. Ooh,
Yes,
stimulated, huh?
yes. I
Okay.
have to become okay with saying, Rashawn, you did that thing. And when I take responsibility for that, then I can be able to take the next step. And that's doing the intentional change of behavior. Because if I don't change my behavior, it's going to keep the perpetual cycle going. You know what I'm saying? Drop the
Yeah,
mic.
yeah, that, yeah.
I have to
Mhm,
change.
mhm.
And so when I take that responsibility, make the change, even if it is uncomfortable,
Even if it costs you something.
oh, it's going to cost me something
Yes, it will.
because breaking something is going to cost you something else because it's going to take you out of your comfort zone
Mhm, mhm.
when you're breaking it. And not only is it going to take me out of my comfort zone, I'll just speak for myself. It, when I get so to the point where I'm disgusted with the cycle myself, that's when I say, okay, change has to be made.
Okay, so this is the audible I'm going to bring out.
Oh boy, I'm
I
afraid
told you it
right
was
here.
coming.
Jeez. Okay.
So because you're going into, and that was a good segue actually, into the topic on tonight, what we say we want to pick up, and that
Mm-hmm.
was dealing with the intentional change behaviors. How do we go about being intentional with changing our behaviors? Well, I just want to pause real quick as we go into that. What makes Coach Rod and Coach Sean, Marriage Evolves, what makes us subject matter experts on this?
Oh my God. Listen up, people, because we have done this very thing consistently in our marriage for the last 15 years. We were on a cycle,
Yeah, well,
perpetual cycles.
I'll probably say 20.
20,
Yeah.
doggone it, that long.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, we were on cycles. And so we had to stop and recognize what we were doing to each other and to our relationship. I remember specifically one time when an individual told us, all your guys are doing is playing tennis, just hitting the ball back and forth. That same cycle. Boom, he hits, I hit. Boom, he hits, I hit. And
Both
we
of
were
us trying to
constantly,
outserve each other
exactly. And but we weren't trying to outserve each other in
in
the
a good
right
way,
way.
not in a
We were
good way.
trying to outserve each other and staying within them doggone cycles.
We were doing a Venus or Williams serve on that. Oh, one of them
Yes,
getting
we
it in there.
sure was. But what happened? We got tired of it.
Yes, we did. It got to the point, folks, where we did, and especially for me, I say this all the time. I had to start doing introspection. I had to
Mhm.
reflect on the inside and see what is the reason behind this. Why are we always going back and forth at this? Why is this even a trigger for me? Why is this a problem? Why do I get so angry at her when this scenario comes about?
Oh my God, that's too much. That's too many wives. You know, couples nowadays that you ask me too many wives. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you better start getting some answers and find out. Stop saying I don't know, and because you do know, you just got to get to the core of it. Like we say sometimes when we deal with couples on one-on-ones, you got to peel the onion back. You got to get down to the layer of the reason why it's really pungent and stink down there. And sometimes it's going to get stronger and stink the closer you get to the issue. But you got to be willing to confront the issue, and you got to be willing to confront it in yourself. That's
Mhm.
another thing.
Mhm. That's good. But one of the scriptures that I so
Yeah.
love is this brings about the quality of your marriage is determined by the quality of your mind. Your mind. I'm going to repeat that again. The quality of your marriage is determined by the quality of your mind. If you cannot get your mind out of the crazy cycle that it's in, the quality of your relationship is going to be determined by that.
And sometimes, and so we're talking about it, and I'm sure somebody may be thinking, oh, I hear what y'all saying. Sometimes the way we think, what we bring into our relationships, those crazy thought patterns and cycles, is a product of our culture, from home bringing. We talked about some things being generational last time. Some things are the environment in which we are living in the current time.
Mhm.
Whatever culture you have in your house, whatever ethnicity, cultural background that you have, that you may lean more into that than you do into the culture of being a child of God. And that's one of those areas that a lot of people struggle with sometimes.
Yeah.
And I have a great word. You want to go ahead and hit the word, or because if
Yes.
not, I want to go ahead and hit
What
it from
it
the
is,
Message Bible.
yes. But Romans 12 and 2 says, and do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Mm.
God talks about the importance of why your mind needs to be renewed and transformed from how you thought things should be and how it should be in accordance to what he says.
Mhm. And that was one of the things I had to do. I had to look inward, recognize there were some funky patterns, and
Mhm.
start allowing God to help me change my mindset on how I viewed me, how I viewed my marriage, and how I viewed my wife.
And that's a good one too on how you view things because how you view marriage, whether good, bad, or indifferent, that can create a cycle that transforms a relationship. Because you see it this way, now all you're doing is situating that same thing that you saw into your relationship, which ends up being, wow, Why is it like I'm going through the same thing that my mom and my daddy went through? Or why am I going through the same thing that I saw somebody else go through? It's because that's all you knew. It's because you had never allowed something or someone or God to come in and transform by the renewing of your mind and allow your mind to be transformed.
We never allow the intentional change behavior, right? Since that's the
No,
topic of that, I'm just,
no.
just like, how I like to bring it back into
Right.
it.
And you know what? Let me hold on a second
What you
because you
got
know
there?
me, I like to have.
Because I still want to go on that message on that
Okay, go
Roman
ahead.
12:12.
Go ahead. While you're doing
All
that,
right.
I'm going to bring this one up.
So, folks, I'm going to read the very same scripture my wife just read, Romans 12:2, but I'm going to read it from the Message Bible because I just love the way the Message Bible breaks it down in our today common way of speaking. So, here's what I want you to do, God helping you. Take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping, your eating, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for Him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture
Mhm.
that you fit into it without even thinking. I want to read that part again.
Oh, my.
Don't become so well adjusted to your culture
Mhm.
that you fit into it without even thinking.
So hold on.
Mm,
We're going to dissect that a little bit. So you're telling me, according to this scripture, that a lot of times we as individuals in relationships, we are doing things. What is that last part you said?
without even thinking.
Without even thinking. The importance of your mind
Hmm.
being renewed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm going to bring in
Intentional.
intentional. This is what intentional means. Intentional means done on purpose, deliberate. That means you are deliberately making a change. I'll use for an example a cycle. If my husband comes to me with some crazy crap that I don't want to listen to or hear, yeah, I say crap. But craziness that has nothing to do with the conversation at hand, I have to stop that. I have to be deliberate and say, babe, this is not what we were talking about. Let's stay on track with our conversation.
You said I come to you with some crazy crap.
Yeah, sometimes, not all the time. But we have that, and that's what being deliberate and intentional means. You're intentionally doing the opposite of what someone has done or is doing to you. Intentionally having the right heart and attitude about the situation when it comes to breaking these cycles.
I'm tapping you because you had a key word that I would wish you would have looped back around it. Even though we're talking about cycles and how to break them, I want you to get on that cycle and repeat that. Yeah, the intentionality of in the mindset,
In the mind,
repeating.
the same thing over and over and over. You go from one relationship to the next and you wonder if it's the other person or if it's you. Sometimes we can be the common denominator
Most
in
times
these
we are.
situations.
Most times we are.
Yes,
Most
we can be the
times
common denominator.
we are. Yes.
That's why it's so important that we do that self reflection.
Mhm.
Look at ourselves, not at the other person, and say, this cycle has to stop based on what I want to do.
But I only act like this because you got on my nerves, or because you didn't do what I asked you to do, or because you left the dishes on the side of the sink instead of washing them or putting them in the dishwasher. I only got like this because you came at me crazy.
You're not taking responsibility for your
But
for
but but
your own
but I
action.
wouldn't have had to come at you crazy if you didn't come at me crazy first.
You need to take responsibility for your own action and reaction to whatever the situation is. Even if it is me trying to break the cycle, but you want to stay on the cycle.
Mm,
Because there's
mm.
always one spouse who refuses to get off the cycle before the other.
And that's where I'm gonna piggyback into the word. I'm gonna
But
piggyback into the word
but we
because you said
have
something key right there. I know you want to get to that, but you say something real key. To be finished off on that, don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, instead,
mm,
instead,
alternative.
fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out, readily recognizing what He wants you or wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity.
Okay, so that goes to another avenue here. So you telling me just by that, it could be a cause of some immaturity, the reason why the cycles are continuing?
Well, I'm gonna speak for me as I always do. I had a whole lot of immaturity when it came
You
down to you
doggone
and I,
right you
and so
did.
I was
You
letting
sure
my
did.
immaturity get the best of me because I'm like, well, I ain't, she ain't gonna get away with that. Or she ain't gonna talk to me like that, or whatever the case was. I was so full of my pride and so full of myself.
Mm,
Or from the military mindset, with all us guys always talking about what we are not going to allow our wives to do and what we ain't going to put up
mm.
with or tolerate. And I let that get into my head sometime too. And sometimes I brought that mess home.
So once again, y'all, we talk intentionally breaking cycles. And we have a question that is here that just came up. Let's just see. What happens when people don't recognize their trigger?
Mm,
Good
that
question.
is a very good question. You want to hit that first?
I'm gonna let you hit it.
Okay. Ooh, how do we hit that one? I tell you what, there was a couple of triggers that I didn't realize trigger until until my wife brought it to my attention. And there were these moments like we shared, in several sessions before when we talked about communication. We love to have what we call check-in moments. And these are moments when we set the environment, set the place where we sit down and talk with each other and just have real talk about any and everything going on with us individually. And my wife had to bring some things to my attention. It did not feel good. It was very uncomfortable. At times, I told her, I said, look here. I said, I felt like the little boy and you having to be the mother coming at me with the way you had to break it down to me for me to understand because I just wasn't getting it. And then I had to realize that what you were saying was not that you were trying to come at me. You was helping me to identify, hey, this is the problem that you got. This is something that every time we get to this place, you always respond this way. You always get like this.
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question, I didn't recognize it until my wife took the time, bold enough to share with me. This is part of the problem why I am frustrated with you because you always go and do this or revert to this in these areas of your life, in this stage, and whatever we're going through. This is how you always think. This is how you always choose to respond.
So basically, you're saying that I helped you recognize the triggers that was there.
Yes, and sometimes your spouse is because we always say we are a mirror, or we should be a mirror, a reflection of each
Mm-hmm.
other. So who best, who best to be able to tell you what's going on with you? Because they see you, they smell you, they hear you
Oh,
all day long, every day.
yeah.
Who best to be able to tell you but your reflection?
And another part of that is if your spouse does not or is not the one to help you identify these triggers, this is where you as an individual need to do that self reflection. Okay, every time I get to this place, I react or respond this way, and I find myself in this cycle again. So a lot of times, I'll just speak for myself. I had to really pay attention to certain areas of our relationship that was a trigger, that became a trigger. And when you are one who is able to identify that, then you will be able to say, okay, this area is a problem for me. So now I need to take time to, what is the word I want? Dissect why this is a trigger for me. Because there's a why. We talked about it earlier. Some people don't like those whys, but there's a why to everything. Why is this trigger here? Why are these cycles still here? You have to do that deep rooted introspection, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to find out what those answers are, because when you identify it, trust me when I say this, because you're looking at two individuals who were able to do this, and it took years to be able to break some of these cycles. When you identify it, it becomes easy for you to tackle it when it comes and shows its up, when it shows its ugly head again, and something comes up and you're like, oh nope, we've been here, done this before. We're not responding this way. I'm not going to react this way. I'm not going to, we were talking about this the other day with some individuals, be the one that has a victim mentality. Because sometimes spouses in a relationship have, what did I give you anything?
Talking about the victim mentality,
Some people have a victim mentality and just use it to their advantage.
manipulated to their advantage.
Manipulating, which keeps them in that same old cycle in their relationship. When the husband or the wife says something that they don't like, oh, you hurt my feelings.
Oh,
Oh, you hurt my heart. Oh my God, that's just too damaging for me. Not realizing that you don't want to deal with you.
now mind you, we're not talking about when somebody's coming at you crazy.
Nope.
We're talking about when somebody's coming at you with the
With the
right
truth.
mindset, and in the right spirit, speaking truth to help
That's your
illuminate
spouse.
the situation. Not when they, your spouse ain't in the right mindset, or they coming at you sideways and talking all
Correct.
off the box. We're not talking about that. We talking about when they coming in the right mindset, the right spirit, and they giving you truth to help you see and understand.
Yes.
Hey, bro. Hey, sis. You need to smell your hind parts. It's stinking back there.
You like using that word stinking quite a bit.
Yes.
Okay, because this stuff do be
It
stinking.
does.
It's like the Dead Sea, because when you at the Dead Sea, what's there? Nothing but dead stuff.
It's a whole bunch of salt, no life.
And
Nothing can
that's
live
what
in there.
exactly, and that's what happens in our relationships when they're not evolving and progressing, but they're staying in these cycles. They start to stink.
hmm And since you brought it up, the thing about the Dead Sea or any body of water that does this, Dead Sea is a body of water that has a lot of flows that come in, but nothing goes out.
Ooh,
And when nothing goes out, there's no circulation of oxygen. It's a buildup of all kind of other minerals like salts and the carbon that stays in it. It becomes a stagnant where life is not able to thrive. If there's no oxygen flowing in the water because it's going in and going out, there's no flow for life to thrive in there. And it's just like if you have a pond or whatever in a puddle in your yard,
yeah,
and water rains and comes in there, but nothing flows back out of it, it comes stagnant, it comes stinky.
just like relationships. When there's no evolving, when there's no movement, there's no growth, there's no forward movement in your thinking, there's no trust and consideration and
There's no
compassion.
there's no inflow of the
There's no
Holy Spirit and
ay ay
outflow
ay
of
ay
all
ay
your crap.
ay 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 ay. That's real good.
Mhm.
Wow.
You want to move on to the next scripture?
Yes. So the last one, that we're gonna bring is John 10:10. And this one right here is gonna close this whole thing out. The thief comes not, excuse me, let me rephrase that. The thief does not come except to steal, kill, and destroy.
Who's the thief?
The thief is the enemy, sometimes within you,
But in this
or the
case, what are you talking
enemy
about?
the enemy that's trying to kill you. I didn't say that right, did
That's
I?
fine. You're all right.
But go ahead and explain it.
All right. That's fine. But as I'm explaining, I'm gonna go ahead and hit it from. And this is coming from the Passion Translation. It says, "A thief has only one thing in mind. He wants to steal, slaughter,
Mm.
and destroy. But I have come, this is Jesus talking, but I have come to give you everything in abundance, more than you expect, life in its fullness until you overflow. So going back to the
Mm.
thief, in this case, a lot of times it could be, you could use it as an analogy. The thief can be your way of thinking, your craziness and staying in this cycle. But we
Sometimes it
know
is.
ultimately what the word is referencing the
Yep.
thief being the enemy, Satan, coming and putting those, feeding you with those crazy thoughts to,
Mhm.
to say, hey, you can still, ain't nothing wrong with your way of thinking. You find it's them. It's you not the problem. They the problem.
You can stay on this cycle
Hmm.
because nothing's going to change. Nothing is going to get any better. He's not going to change. She's not going to change. Just planting those seeds in your mind to keep you on those cycles. But not today, daughter. Not today, son, because you are going to break these cycles. Because
We
why?
living in life more abundantly.
Yes. And we declare today that after tonight, you are going to start doing a self reflection and internal and intentional changed behavior so you and your relationship can get off of these cycles.
So for a final summarization, recap, in
Yep.
order to break up the cycles, you have to identify
Yep.
what the cycles are. You have to do a self-reflection on what it is, those triggers, why you have those cycles, and then go through intentional change behavior, allowing the word, allowing God to help you change the way you think, the way you've been brought up with thinking that's not conducive for your now
Mhm.
relationship.
And if you need some other insights or information, please reach out to us at hello@marriageevolves.com. Let us know where you need some more assistance in because some things require one on one. Some things require a mediator to sit there and help you because it's a little bit more tougher than what you expected. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. We can do individual and we can do together coaching because that's what we do best. So we always want
Go ahead
you
and put
to
your hand back
do
on me
and
like
be
that again. I like that. That felt good.
okay. We always want you to be your best in your relationship. So, as we always say, and before we get ready to do that, make sure you follow, subscribe, and tell somebody. So, not only your relationship can be better, but theirs can be too.
But you know what? Before we sign off, thank y'all for stopping by. Thank y'all for supporting. And thank you for just taking a few minutes out of your schedule to sit and hear what we have to talk about. You're not just hearing from us, you're hearing from what we believe that God has given us to share with you that's going to help you. So
Mhm.
thank you.
And as always,
We are two
two
hearts,
hearts,
one
one
team
team with
with one
one
purpose.
purpose.